In this video, we're actually going to cover 3 worksheets. We're going to cover 120 matrix map, we're going to cover 121, which is matrix map definitions, and 122, which gives you a statewide report with regards to the matrix map. The matrix map was created about 3 years ago, and I know we've had a lot of hits on this worksheet in the last few months due to the LEARNS Act and schools trying to make some kind of guess with regards to the 80% expenditure for school salaries in the matrix requirement that's there. However, this worksheet was not built recently, and so it was not actually designed for calculating that 80% expenditure requirement for spending 80% of what's in school level salaries and benefits in the matrix. Now, the reason we put this worksheet together a few years ago was we wanted to give school districts some kind of idea of how their expenditures compared to the matrix recommendations. So for those of you that are not real familiar with the matrix can be found in the 2022-23 Arkansas School Funding Guide, and the matrix is based upon a prototypical school of 500 students. So in FY23, if we have 500 students, then the matrix has a recommendation on the number of employees that you should have based upon the standards. And you can see for kindergarten, of course, we would need 2 teachers because we have 40 students. Now, if your district was 1,500 students, then obviously you'd multiply that by 3 and you need 6 teachers. That's kind of how we do the calculation on our matrix map. The top portion of the matrix shows the number of employees that you should have with regards to school level personnel. And then the bottom portion of the matrix has some recommendations for amounts of money for salaries and benefits that would even be included. And this is the number that people were trying to achieve 80% of with regards to the LEARNS Act, 80% of school level salaries. So if you have school level salaries and benefits for teachers, principals, and school secretary, the recommendation is $5,117.30. And a school that met that requirement would be within 80% of that. Also in the matrix, schools are allotted certain dollar values for school level resources, such as technology or extra duty or substitutes. And then finally, there's a section called carry forward or district level resources that include operations and maintenance, central office, and transportation. So those are per student amounts. And ultimately, all those per student amounts equal our foundation funding for FY23, which is $7,413 per student. So that's kind of how the legislature decides how they'll fund schools on foundation funding. However, that's just a guide, that's just a recommendation. Schools are free to spend the money however they wish. But this matrix map kind of gives you an idea of how you spend your dollars in accordance with the matrix. There are 3 sections. Once again, the school level salary and benefits. We're going to do a little tweaking on this because I know that we don't have assistant principals in this calculation right now. We'll be making some changes to that soon. But there's your school level resources, and here's your carry forward. For example, if you don't see one of the categories down here in the matrix, for example, I think instructional facilitators are in there at some point. If you don't spend any dollars on instructional facilitators, then it won't show up. If you don't spend any money on library media specialists, then that category will not show on your matrix map. The way the matrix map works is this. There'll be a bar that shows in blue the amount of money you spent on K-12 teacher salaries. The red line is what you budgeted. So this district obviously spent right in line with what they were budgeted to spend. The matrix amount, the recommendation, is in gold or yellow, and that's a little bit higher in some cases. In some places, schools spend more than what's in the matrix. Some places they spend slightly less. That varies from school to school. But you can see most of the spending is somewhat in line with what the matrix recommendation is. One of the questions we get quite often is, why is there such a big gap usually on K-12 teacher salaries? Why do schools spend less than what's in the matrix? Remember, this is calculated basically at $71,000 for salary and benefits. Many of our school districts obviously don't pay anywhere near that salary. That would assume all your teachers are maxed out on your salary schedule as we were familiar with it prior to the LEARNS Act. All of these different categories are sum totaled down here. So all the school level salary and benefits across here are sum totaled here. You can see how the school paired on all those expenditures put together. Same thing for school level resources and carry forward. And finally, down here, we put all those categories together. What's the comparison between what we budgeted and expended and what the matrix recommended? So in this case, matrix recommended $23 million spent. District spent just a little over $20 million. It should be noted that you can only see 1 year. If you do click on the current year, you're not going to get a full detailed story because obviously our expenditures are still growing throughout the year. We're approximately 3/4 through the school year, but you can go back and look at previous years as well, but only 1 year in one district at a time. Notice down here on current year, as far as the calculation is concerned on what the district requirement is, Kendall has given you a really good idea of when we post the data. So we make that calculation for what the matrix says based on your prior year 3-quarter average until the first quarter is posted. Then we make that calculation based upon the first quarter. And we continue to change that throughout the year. The second quarter ADM is posted. Then we'll use that until we finally get to the 3-quarter average for the year. So basically it's kind of an estimate. Going forward, if you're looking at the previous year, obviously it's based on the 3-quarter ADM. Now, one thing you should note in this worksheet is this. It's just kind of a guide to see how you're spending the money. It's not in any way making any kind of judgment on a school on how they spend their money. But one of the things you should note is that the Bureau of Legislative Research does not release the account codes that they include in each matrix group. So we're really making a guess, and it's our best guess to what accounts can be included in that group, and we know it's not perfect. You can look at matrix map 121, which is the second one we'll be covering today. In matrix map 121, matrix map definitions, we're going to give you all of the code, fund, function, and object in each of those categories that go into school level salary and benefits, that go into school level resources, and go into carry forward. So you can see what codes that we pulled. Obviously, if you have any suggestions or ideas on how to improve that, we certainly would take a listen. Also note there that for charter schools, funds 1,200 and 2,200 are substituted for 1,000 and 2,000. And then finally, worksheet 122, the statewide funds, this is going to be grouped by each of those groups in the matrix. So I can filter traditional charter, I can filter by the year, I can filter by the matrix group, I can filter by co-op, and I can filter for schools that are over or under the matrix recommendation. And this calculation that it defaults to is K-12 teacher salaries. So for K-12 teacher salaries, it's going to pull every district in the state. That's the matrix category, that's the matrix group we're looking at, and if you hover, you can see what the school spent with regards to what the matrix recommended. If you're wanting to look at this statewide, you want to do some kind of ranking, you can go down to the lower panel, click on this sort filter, and it will sort from highest to lowest. Click on it again, it will sort from lowest expenditure to highest, and then click on it once again, and it takes it back to alphabetical order. I can look at any different category. If I wanted to look at central office expenditures, I quickly just click on that matrix group filter, and now we're looking at central office expenditures only. Those that are in red will have spent more than the matrix recommendation. Those that are blue will have spent less than the matrix recommendation. So once again, worksheets 120, 121, and 122 really are all to be used together. It's just to kind of give you a look at how your school district spends funds with regards to how the matrix makes recommendations on how to spend those funds.